Good morning, it's the 22nd of October and it's the morning headlines with me, Sharad Kutan. First up is The Sun. I think it does us a huge favor because it alerts us to the fact that in Parliament at this point in time, amendments to the Penal Code are being put forward, and some of them are actually quite serious in terms of democratic practice. The one that's headlined here is a law that will perhaps impose a fine of R1 million and 1 year's jail for any civil servant leaking information about what's happening behind closed doors in our bureaucracy. Now that's very serious. It's not a measure that's going to help with the fight against corruption. Now keep a watch on this news. Okay. There's more stuff in terms of criminalization, but we'll go to the next story, and that's The Star. My big gripe is a story there, and you can see it right there. It says, bring back ISA to improve public safety. Now, that's actually a comment made in an online poll, and it was solicited by the government of the day. The question really is, does and has the ISA been used to deal with public safety issues of snatch thieves, burglaries? No, in fact, they've been used against political opponents. So why the ISA and how is that connected to public safety? Something the newspaper should not have repeated uncritically. The TheNST this morning headlines something the Prime Minister said when he was on a tour of Sabah and Sarawak very recently. 7 days after the fact, after the ruling with the Herald, the Prime Minister finally weighed in on the question of the use of the word Allah. He's saying that Sabah and Sarawak are exempt. Of course, this goes against what many legal scholars are saying about the implications, ramifications of the ruling, that they go beyond whatever kind of political compact. And here the Prime Minister refers to the 10-point agreement between him and leaders of Sabah and Sarawak. Whether that weighs more than the decisions of the court, that's something we leave the next few years to show, because in fact some people will be pushing for those laws to be extended and to be utilized fully. Now, Sinar Harian, interestingly enough, a couple of days before the budget headlines and gives its front pages to the Pakatan Rakyat and its alternative. The reason the Pakatan Rakyat is not simply responding to the government of the day's budget, but in fact is putting forward its own, is that they felt like last year the government of the day allegedly stole their ideas. So this time they're putting it out there first. Berita Harian goes with the Sungai Limau by-election caused by the death of the former MB of Kedah. What's interesting about this story is that around this story has been talk about threats made by the Barisan Nasional against voters, and the MB of Kedah came out to reassure voters that they can vote any way they choose and that development funds will not be withheld whatever their decision is, which is extraordinarily democratic. Okay, so the Malay Mail leads with a story on the rating system. Is there some yardstick that's being used that's neutral and independent, or is in fact decisions made about ratings dependent on who's asking and whether profits are going to be affected? So that's a story to read if you're interested in the way our cinemas operate. Finally, from Utusan, we have a story. Again, they're going for the DAP. They haven't stopped for months now. This time, again, it is the Central Executive Committee elections, which were recently held. Somebody saying that there were improper voters in that process. Follow the Utusan if you like reading about problems in the DAP. Serious stuff in the business news dailies. We have the Edge Financial Daily. Yes, you asked for it and we're bringing it to you. Not political stories, both business and economic stories. I'm not going to weigh in on that, but still, there it is. Compared to the Malaysian Reserve, which has a story about the plans of Selangor. Selangor, of course, is run by the Pakatan Rakyat government. They have plans for R1 billion sovereign fund. So that's something to look at. Also, Iskandar and investments here and how much they pulled in over the years to see whether that development plan is going as hoped. Finally, if you want some light reading, there's Harian Metro, one of the largest selling newspapers of the country. Nenek naik minyak, which means she got really upset and jealous and she took a parang to her husband. So, and also a little interesting story of a kid stuck in New Zealand who wants to go home but whose mother's not letting her go home, and she is on a one-person hunger strike and protest. That's something to read. Thank you so much for joining us, and keep those comments coming. We'll be responding to them. This is Morning Headlines with me, Sharad Kuttan, on BFM 89.9.